from the CyberHub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the CyberHub Podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Good morning, security gang. Welcome to today's show, Wednesday, February 23rd, 2022. And mark the date, the time, and the place. We are in our 1936 moment of this century, folks. A war looms between Ukraine and Russia as Russia starts going into parts of Ukraine they've already had occupied through Russian rebels. Let's start off with that. So, clarified that's out of the way. China's on the rise. CISA's warning. A bunch of stuff's going on. And for the first time, we may not see the battlefield is going to switch to an economic battlefield, and cybersecurity is going to be the main piece of that. That's what we're going to be talking about on today's show. So thank you all for tuning in. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're tuning in from. We've got a packed show today. Don't go anywhere. Stick through this. We're going to get it done in under 10 minutes, I promise. All right. Before we do that, though, shout out to KnowBe4 for their support of our program. Without their support, this show would not be possible. Please show them some love and inquire more about their services. And you can see more about them in the show notes and let them know you heard about them from the CyberHub Podcast. Additionally, we're live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. You can also find our shows now on Rumble. So that's just another place. We're also going to be doing much more geopolitical cyber stuff on Rumble because of stuff that's going on YouTube. YouTube has taken out some of the stuff we've been told by YouTube that we can't post it. So some content's going to be on Rumble. So go to CyberHub, go to rumble.com, check out CyberHub Podcast there. You can see more stuff there as well. We're getting down into the nitty-gritty time of it, folks. So before we do, let's get into some shout-outs this morning. Good morning to Scott, Brent, Medina. Good morning to Ken Morris. Good morning to all the beautiful people here. Good morning to Marcia, Anna, Lynn. Good morning to you. Good morning, Patrick. And good morning to Ederly. Yes, it is the Defender of the Fatherland holiday. Putin does a lot of different things. We'll talk about that as well. But we're going to talk about how he's going to be reacting to the first round of sanctions that was levied upon Russia and how that impacts you. All right, before we do that, though, we cannot start today's show without my ceremonial double espresso or whatever cup of coffee you folks are enjoying this morning, whatever it is, whether it be Black Rifle or just a good old espresso or a Red Bull. Whatever's yours, coffee cup, cheers. Let's get into today's first story where CISA is now warning of an attack that's exploiting recent vulnerabilities in the Zabbix monitoring tool. CISA expanded its known vulnerabilities catalog with two critical flaws in the Zabbix enterprise monitoring solution, tracked as CV 2022-23131 and 23134. Both vulnerabilities could be exploited to bypass authentication, gain admin privileges, which could then allow an attacker to execute arbitrary commands. Zabbix itself is an open source monitoring platform that organizations deploy within their network to collect and centralize data such as CPU load and network traffic. This was identified by security researchers with Sonar Source, and the two vulnerabilities appear to be no information appears to be available. On the attack exploiting these vulnerabilities, but a POC exploit does exist, and there is a high-profile target for threat actors. These were all, by the way, patched in the new 6.0.0 beta 2, 5.4.9, 5.0.19, and 4.0.37. So make sure if you are using this tool, you get it patched. Now, they were released in December, but people still have not patched because, if there's no POC exploit, it goes down the list. Something to keep in mind. An increasing number of threat groups are now targeting OT systems in North America. Let this be the warning. This is all. Here we go. So this is beginning. This is how it all starts. According to a new report from Dridex, they've identified new groups that appear to be interested in industrial control and OT, which brings the total numbers of such groups tracked by the company to 18. These groups were discovered in 2021, are tracked as Costovite, Erythrite, and Petrovite, and the first two actually managed to gain direct access into an ICS and OT network. Petrified, which has targeted mining and energy operations in Kazakhstan, has shown an interest in collecting data on systems and networks. But they and then Petrified attacks were started to conduct since the third quarter of 2019. There is some overlap between these, mainly the fact that they're all Russian and Russian of nature. They're targeting the US and Canada, as well as Fortune 500 companies, large electrical utility, food and beverage companies, IT firms, oil and gas and vehicle manufacturing. Russia uses former USSR nations as basis for a lot of their cyber attacks, especially ones where they're trying to use scale and kind of deflect from their very own doings. So something to keep in mind here with this recent report from Dragos is Russia could now look at these folks and decide to use them. The Dridex malware is now deploying Entropy ransomware on hacked computers. So Dridex, general purpose malware, and now a little known malware strand called Entropy are coming together, rebranding under a different name. And again, this is coming after a report from Sophos. The commonalities were uncovered following two unrelated incidents targeting an unnamed media company and a regional government agencies. In both cases, the deployment of Entropy was preceded by infecting the target network with Cobalt strike beacons and Dridex, granting the attackers remote access. Despite consistency in some aspects of the twin attacks, they also varied significantly with regards to initial access, vector used to worm their way inside the networks, and so forth. So there's the attack on the media organization used a proxy shell exploit to strike a vulnerable exchange server. So again, unpatched systems, vulnerabilities, things that need to be monitored. That's how they're getting in, and that's how they're making their way through. You've got to be able to do the upkeep and not just the new toys. Upkeep is significant. That's how they're getting in. China. Experts uncovered details of Equation Group's PVP-47 covert hacking tool. So researchers from China have discovered details of a top-tier backdoor put to use by the Equation Group, an APT with alleged ties to the NSA. So allegedly, and again, I question a lot of things that come from China. I'm sorry, but I do. I don't find them to be trustworthy. So this was an NSA backdoor. The reason they're putting it out there is to save face, to say, look, we know the NSA is trying to get in our systems and so forth. But apparently this has been in their system since 2013. So for 9 years, job well done by our boys, if that's definitely them. The attackers targeted a variety of sectors in no less than 42 countries, including government, telecom, aerospace, energy, nuclear research, oil and gas, military, nanotech, Islamic activities and scholars, media, transportations, and so forth. BVP is a covert backdoor. The incident analyzed showed that a small numbers of infections have been been seen in multiple different industries, and this is China trying to flex its muscles, saying we can find and we know how to do forensics and so forth. Interesting. I felt like this was interesting as a backdoor. Your thoughts are always welcome on the topic. Now we'll move on to our news of the day. All right. So Russia marched into Russian separatist-controlled territories of eastern Ukraine. These have been there since 2014 in the annexation of Crimea. The Donetsk region has had Russian separatists. They call them Russian separatists because they're not Ukrainians. They're Russian plants. They're militias that were put there by the Russians, paid to stay there and continue to destabilize that region until a time like such as today. Well, on the cyber front, in the world of dark web, we're seeing a lot more activity trying to take advantage of this, offering network access to Russian or Ukrainian companies and databases that could be relevant to those involved in the conflict. On February 2nd, an underground forum user was asking $160 for access to a subdomain of a Ukrainian agricultural exchange. The threat actor claimed to have shell and database access to the subdomain, as well as access to payment information and contracts. Accenture notes that it allows an attacker to obtain PII and payment card data, resell exfil, deploy malicious software such as ransomware to face websites, and so much more. Also in late January, an An underground forum user shared an SQL database supposedly stolen from the Ukrainian federal agency, which allegedly contains detailed information on wanted criminals in the Ukraine, and so much more. Well, what does all of that mean? So the Wall Street Journal has a pretty good write-up on this, folks. And it's what's going to be the after effect of the sanctions that have been imposed. A friend of the show, Representative Jim Langevine, who is the senior member on the House Armed Services Committee, has said that we need to take an all-hands-on-deck approach, and he is not wrong. Here's where some of this stuff could be coming from. One, just because we sanctioned Russia doesn't mean that Russia's going to fold. Putin's not going to fold at this point. Everyone just understands that. This is a game of chess, not checkers. And what Putin will do is he'll see how far he can get away with. Russia's now been sanctioned by Japan, by a lot of EU. Nord Stream 2 has been canceled by Germany. Russia has threatened Germany as such. And so, like I said at the beginning of the show, it's our 1936 moment. This is it. 1936, Hitler invaded Poland and Czechoslovakia, and then starts from there. All right. No one did a thing when he did that to the Czech Republic at the time. They said, well, as long as he stays in the Czech Republic, it's fine. Well, he's invaded eastern Ukraine. If he continues to go west, it's going to lead to conflict. Ukraine has called up a bunch of their reservists, 18 to 60 years old, willing. They've just, as we're doing the show, I got an alert that they've legalized guns to everyone. So essentially their own Second Amendment. So come get one, have it. In case the Russians decide to further invade, we're going to have citizens armed with weapons so they can't tell the difference, kind of guerrilla warfare type of approach. So here's what this means to you as an organization. Russia is now going to start. Russia's been hit economically with the new sanctions that President Biden has put on Russia. Russia, in turn, is going to do the same to the U.S. and other countries, meaning they're not going to be the only ones that are going to take the economic hit. We're going to see it as well. They're going to try to disrupt payment systems, economic systems, critical infrastructure. They're going to try to cripple transportation and shipping, logistics. And with inflation being where it is, you've got to read the whole map, folks. Cybersecurity is one aspect, but right now cyber warfare is real and it's on our doorstep. It's not a panic call. Don't go panicking, but you've got to be prepared. Few things that one can do at this point. One, keep your eye out on credentials. Reduce the number of unsuccessful attempts. If you're getting an unsuccessful attempt, maybe put in a emergency procedure to do that. And what I mean by that is maybe have someone within your team saying if someone's trying to log in 2-3 times and you're not, call them, email that person, contact them somehow, some way through Slack, through Teams, whatever you're using internally to verify that it is that person. Monitor your key IT and OT systems. Keep an eye on those systems because that's where they're going to try to disrupt it. Additionally, they're going to deploy ransomware in order to fund and make up for the shortfalls from these sanctions. So that's also going to be something significant. Is they're going to be they're going to do ransomware attacks where they're going to be asking for money and for crypto, and paying ransom is never a good thing. But nonetheless, right now, don't make yourself an easy target. Patch known vulnerabilities that are within your environment. And if you can't patch it, take it offline or put in compensating controls because that's the Russians' TTPs. Look at MITRE. MITRE has a list of all the known Russian IOCs and TTPs. It's a good time today to refresh yourself and your team on those. Take it out, explain it, review it, start to get your situational awareness of your environments in place, and start to prepare for the day where Russia decides to strike back. And they're not going to do it through military. They're only going to do it through cyber warfare because they want to do an economic disruption. Inflation's at a 40-year high in the US, and they know that. Just like we know, they know. And they'd love nothing more than to disrupt a critical part of our economy in order to increase that and create more pressure on this administration. All right. Whether you agree with the administration or not has nothing to do with the fact that we don't want to be easy sitting ducks for the Russian bears that are going to be coming at us right now. Folks, that's it for our show today. Make sure you read up. If you have any questions, you can ping me on LinkedIn. Happy to help in any sort of way I can. We'll be back tomorrow to wrap up this week. Joining me tomorrow will be my good friend James McQuiggan as we wrap up this week as well together. So until then, have a great rest of your day. Stay focused. Don't lose sight of what's going on, and drown out the noise and focus on being operationally sound and fundamentally sound. Cyber operations is critical. That includes patching and so much more. Till next time, have a great rest of your day, folks. And most importantly, stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.